欢迎收听杂物间，
You are listening to the Storage Room,
你最好的口袋朋友。
your best pocket friend.
大家好，我是 Linsey，
大家好，我是 Mark，
我来自于中国云南，织女微霜。
我来自美国纽约，九曲18弯。
我今天吃了野生菌，非常美味。
我在看着我爱人挖洞洞呢。
Well, welcome everybody. Today we we invited a very special guest, and his name is Stephen. So, hi, Stephen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen, and I was born in California, and then I moved to the East Coast for college, and now I'm working in China.
Yeah. So, where are you in China right now?
I'm in Shenzhen.
So, do you know that what we're going to talk about today?
I know it has to do something about AI technology and love. It's like a Venn diagram between love and something about virtual reality, something about that.
Right. So here I'm going to ask two of you, Stephen and Mark. Have you ever played one of those dating games before?
I guess I'm going to go first. I must confess, I have, because it was advertised me by one of the YouTubers that I follow out of Taiwan. And then they introduced, I guess they sort of did an advertisement for the video game. And so I sort of play it. It's sort of very NSFW, not safe for work. And also it's very targeted towards gay men. So you have different like gay men stereotype, that kind of thing. So yeah, but it's probably different from the version that you as a straight woman or, you know.
I'm not that straight either, I guess.
That
kind of game.
If I may ask a question, Stephen, what is NSFW?
It's the acronym for not safe for work.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So a little bit racy, right?
Risque, yes.
Got it.
So what about you, Mark? Have you ever played any of those dating
from the
games?
questions that I have, you should know that I probably have never touched any of those games. I just think that because my field of work, I rarely have any time to play computer games or handheld games. So I feel like I'm probably missing out a lot on those more advanced kind of entertainment.
Right. Why? I'm gonna tell you guys the fun that I got from one of those games. I'm not sure whether I should talk about the name of this game, but this game is made of, made in three-dimensional. So it's not like the two-dimensional, like you just get the perfect, you just see the perfect body and perfect face, and you could hear the perfect voice, right? But this one, with the three-dimensional version, oh my God, you could see the micro facial expressions when you're interacting with this one you're dating, you know? So this is seriously fun. And those people in the games, they could actually speak in a very flirty or even sometimes seductive kind of way. So I guess that's a reason this game is like one of the best dating games here in China, I guess. So Stephen, what kind of fun did you get from the dating games?
Is that similar to the videos you sent me?
Yeah, that's from the game. How do you feel about those videos?
But I think it's very targeted towards straight Chinese women because how they look, how the male characters in those games look is very much up the alley of like how Chinese women like their paramour to look like, right? It's very kind of very delicate features, kind of like longer hair and really, really like K-pop stars. Basically, K-pop stars with a lot more muscle.
Right.
And then also, I think in one of the videos that you sent me, I actually saw the female character actually interacting with the male character. That's like, you know, half shirtless, that kind of thing. So yes, I think it's very much targeted towards like straight women who are lonely and need some kind of companionship.
Yeah,
I was thinking the concept is the same. Is it 'cause from somebody who has never played those games before? So I obviously have a lot of questions. So is it a very fixed storyline? Although you can interact with the characters, is it a fixed character like storyline, or by different type of actions that you implement, you have different storylines? How does it work?
oh, well, there is a fixed storyline, and you're about to meet those four different people when you were playing, along the storyline, right? And then these four people are in different types, so that you can interact with either of them, and you could choose the one that you like the most and try to, just, buy something for this person. Like you can buy those cards that you could put this person shirtless all the time.
But I'm thinking that it's similar to when I was younger. It used to be one of those Japanese-inspired love games where by your interaction with the character in question, that you somehow can alter the ending, and it's just because you send flowers to this person and you didn't interact with the other person, or you interact with the other person, or you went on date with these other characters, you somehow alter the ending of this like game. But those Japanese games are much more two-dimensional. The one you just showed me is very three-dimensional, and I think it's meant to satiate kind of need, for women to, because they're lonely. Really, a lot of Chinese women are lonely, and they think they need some companionship, and maybe virtual lover is the best they can do. It's a low investment, low risk, right, kind of thing.
I disagree. I wouldn't admit that I'm lonely. I would say, okay, I would definitely say that I'm just playing this video game because I'm bored, right? But there's one extra thing about this game. You can use your finger. You can use your finger. You can poke anywhere you want to poke on the three-dimensional figures. And then the people will respond to your pokes, So that part is anywhere.
But here's a question for you. Yeah. But Linsey, why would you, of all the games, would choose to play this game instead of playing the other kind of escapist game like Legend of Zelda or
Well, I'm not lonely. I'm just bored.
Well, I'm gonna catch that. What's the difference between being lonely and being bored?
Yeah. I cannot tell the difference. Yeah, but that's the.
Well, I'm poking you right now.
But the thing is, this just keeps me wondering, like, what do we actually get from playing those games? You could obviously tell from the videos that I send you guys, right? Those guys, especially when they're shirtless, they're behaving, or they're just acting a little bit like seductive. So are we buying something erotic or something like that?
I think essentially we're projecting what we want to project onto a character that's largely virtual and sometimes very kind of, it's very banal. And a lot of these characters just have not a lot of personality that you can project onto them. By interacting with them, you can shape whatever this person that you want to shape into. Some of the games, you can even shape the characters, facial features to fit what you want the character to look like. So that's, I like, for example, like SimCity, you can shape a lot of like the facial features of the character they put into the game, into the city. So I think it's just meet the needs of a lot of people that are, because we are isolated by technology, and technology while it's convenient, also make us, isolate us to a certain degree that we would just somehow turn to technology for comfort, because eventually it's not sentient. And we just project what we want to project onto, what we think it is. And then at the end of the day, we would just be fine for however much time that we spend on it.
Well, let me go a little bit further with Stephen. So you talked about in terms of it is a virtual, but what did you personally gain out of playing those games?
I don't know. I think it's novelty, because I used to play those games when I was like teenager, to sort of to I would just to sort of feel my way out of like my sexuality to where I am on the spectrum and to see how I interact with other people romantically. And now when I play those games, it's really for the novelty of it because it's fun, it's kind of low investment, low risk. And a lot of the characters, the game I play, like the more you play, you get to see them more undressed. But that game was, Japanese animation inspired, so it's much more two-dimensional. But I think that was just for the novelty of it, because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things you could do in those games you can't really do on real people in real life.
Just for the
But
novelty.
what do you think? You said that this is at the very beginning of the conversation. You had mentioned about this genre of games more geared towards straight women. So why do you think that they're not producing game for men or straight men?
They're actually like the original start of these kind of love games, like dating games, is actually started as a game that's targeted otaku, like those Japanese people that only interact with animes and they don't really interact with a lot of like people in real life. Those were kind of the game to design for them to socialize with, computer games. But now it's slowly, but yes, most of the games now, those games are really geared towards gay men and straight women. There isn't a really market for straight men. I don't know. I don't think straight men want to play those games. I think they kind of meet their socialization needs, not from computer means. Or when they do computer, they don't turn to games. Because games, I think a lot of times to them, one, it might be too effeminate. It's not masculine enough. And two, a lot of times they think it's very otaku, it's very nerdy. And a lot of straight men have problem with, being perceived as nerdy. So I guess those are the two reasons why there is an Olaf game targeting straight men.
I kind of disagree though, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
I played the first dating game when I was in the junior high school. And that one is definitely targeted young men. That was the first generation of the dating game, I guess. So I was playing this role as a high school boy. So I had to date like 3 or 4 girls in the game. And that was the original one. And those female dating games didn't appear until recently, I have to say.
But would you say those games are targeting, those nerdy, really don't have much of like socialization in real life with their peers in school? Like, would those games for those people, or do you think those games are for people who were like really sporty jocks and they are prom kings, and those people, do you think they have a need for those games as well?
You're describing me. I have no social life.
Right. Well,
I would say, Stephen, that think about it. I think we are avoiding a little bit of elephant in the room here because both the videos that the Linsey sent me and from what your description was at the very beginning about earning some kind of tokens or process to get them undressed, right? So at the end, I feel a lot of sexual kind of insinuation into it. So if that is part of the fun, right? Why wouldn't why wouldn't men be into it? Because as our modern days where we have a lot of convenience of either audio or video kind of interaction, it's really all at the end. It's really related to sexual kind of needs. So anybody who has sexual needs will be a target, will be a market for it.
It's not that simple because I think for jocks, they have a lot more opportunity other than the virtual kind to be, meeting their sexual kind of, let's say, libido per se. But for a lot of like nerdy people who are more introverted, it's really hard for them to really go out and socialize with real people. So this is like a gateway for them to interact with characters in a video game. And then that will sort of like get them to actually slowly to interact with people in a small way.
But do you think that actually achieve its results? Because what we are observing is that you get a sense of this kind of pleasure, and then you kind of box yourself into that kind of 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional games, right? So it's not the transition into a real life. It gets introverted people more and more saying, well, I don't need to go out. I'm getting fun. I'm interacting with people right at the convenience of my home.
You wouldn't be wrong, but I think there's like two kinds of nerdy people. Like one kind of nerdy people, they think, interacting with video game characters or being in their own world is enough for them. And they think at the end of the day, that's all they really need instead of companionship. And they think that's enough. They don't have a really need to, make friends in real life. And there's other kind of introverted people. They think, well, like all of this is program. It's not real. I want something more. And they realize they need something more. So they slowly start to branch out into, making friends in real life, which is a real possibility. When I was a teenager, I wasn't the best in making friends. And those games sort of slowly got me out of my shell to making friends in real life. And, I think it helped when you are a teenager.
But there's a companionship kind of system in those games right now. Like you could actually set your let's say your favorite character to work with you, right? You set a timer like 30 minutes and you just put your phone in front of you. And then this 3D figure in your phone would look at you from time to time, just be with you when you're working. And you just cannot help staring at this person, this character, not a real human being. You just cannot help staring at this character from time to time. And it feels like you do have someone this person is with you the whole time, right? This is the first thing that I haven't experienced before when I was playing all kinds of dating games before, right? And the second thing is, you said it's more of when introverted people are playing these video games, they're just, trying to get their social lives online or in those games. But the thing is, I think those games have something that we don't have in our real lives, For example, where can you find those perfect people who's always for you the whole time, right? Who's gonna be with you anytime you want? It's not realistic. Even if you're dating people, you cannot ask somebody to be with you all the time, right? You can't be that needy as a human being, right? And the thing is, this game is trying to offer people something they're not really getting in their lives. And I have to say, most people don't get what they get from those games.
But do you think this creates a unfair kind of expectation when they are in real life, and the people you are dating or interacting is not ideal, they are not perfect, and then would your expectation fall short, and then it could have discouraged you from interacting with people in real life? Or would you think that whoever uses that kind of game is kind of aware enough that this is only in the virtual world, and these are ideal and perfect human beings, perfect creatures, but human beings are in real life, they are flawed and they are not perfect, they're imperfect, and that's why they are precious and special. And that's why human interaction is more interesting than your interaction with with your video game character, because they are pre-programmed, and every scenario is has been preconceived, has been thought of. That's a lot of times the unexpected nature of your human interaction with people that you have in real life is what you get out of interacting with real human beings than perfect virtual reality kind of perfect homunculus.
Well, available all the time, right? Like the characters that you have. Well, I kind of really thought about what Stephen had just said, and I feel like that kind of so-called, always available and in a way as perfect as it can be, creates a dependency, isn't it? Like in this virtual world, and I feel like that's actually not part of what we have in reality, right? So in reality, you're going to be disappointed, you're going to get rejected, and those are part of our growth. So people who depend, let's say, over addicted to those games, then they would be have less opportunities to polish their ability to interact and socialize with the real life people. That is what I'm very concerned about, actually. Let's say in 50 years from now that everybody's interacting with everybody virtually, that's a different story. But in today's world, as we are transitioning, right, I think the real life is still comes in, let's say 80% of the time. So if you're getting only pleasure from that 20% of the time, and the 80% of the time that you're interacting with real people and lack of certain abilities to interact with them, to observe them, to gain some insight to who they are or what you are doing, then I feel like, are we living a life?
But also, that's sort of the essential premise of any application on your phone or on social media, is for you to invest as much time to draw you into the world that they're building, or draw you into this kind of virtual world, and sort of invest more and more time into it. How much do you think of our the entire human population are aware that they are dependent on these like interaction on social media or interaction with virtual characters for a lot of the things that they can really do in real life? How many people do you think in reality are aware of that? I would say a lot. I don't think a lot of people are aware that they are putting a lot of time on social media, or even if they are aware that they're putting a lot of time on social media, they wouldn't, consciously pull themselves out of it.
So we're really coming to a crossroads right now, right? So I love how you actually kind of, able to kind of measure it, and basically saying, okay, let's just use time to measure how much you are spending with this whole, apps or virtual world, let's say social media or any other kind of app, or how much time you are spending with real life people, let's say spending time with your family, having dinner, spending time with your friends, talking about gossips, I feel like, are we in a way using those apps or social media as a tool, or are we actually living a life there? How we talk about that, how we project a different personality or persona onto the social media, where in real life we are a different kind of person, right?
But we do have a thing called a metaverse right now, right?
Yeah, it's created by Mark Zuckerberg.
Right. So the thing is, even if those characters are fake, right? The experience are real. The experience that you have is real. It's I know we're just dealing with, like, especially the girls who are playing these video games, right? They're dealing with perfect people that we find nowhere to find in our daily life, right? But the thing is, the experience is kind of real. We experience something.
Right. So I think there's a line to be drawn between interacting with, like, people on the internet, in social media, where there's a real human being behind the avatar, behind the persona. And there is a difference between, interacting with a video game character where every one of their responses pre-programmed, and essentially they are some compilation of computer codes, not really human being. I think there's a line to be drawn between those two. And also, I want to throw this to our audience, to our listeners, and also to you guys. Like, imagine these, I guess, in the early 2000s and compared to now 2024, do you think you are spending more time on the internet and less time with people in real life, like quality time with your family or friends in real life?
Ouch.
I mean, it's a real
Ouch.
question, isn't it?
Well, I think the pandemics didn't help. Or it didn't. I shouldn't say it didn't help, right? The pandemic really kind of accelerated this process in terms of saying, wait a second, everybody's kind of locked in at home. At least in the US, it's about 3 months plus 3 months for sure. I'm sure in China it was a lot longer. So you have a lot more time that's not working. You have a lot more freedom to do what you want at the time. So we decided that using an app to connect with other people and to see how other people live, right? It becomes more interesting. So that accelerated. But I think as the pandemic era coming to an end, this is that's why I mentioned about Crossroads. This is really the time for us to evaluate, right? Just like what you said before. How much time am I spending for the last 3 to 4 years on social media? And how much am I spending time with my real life friends, my family members, my partner, my children? What am I doing with them? Right. So is it the right time now to ask those questions?
What I can say is, like 20 years ago, like technology like these, like TikTok and all those social media companies don't exist. So we have less ways to connect with people that are not in our immediate orbit. Like people just meet and see it like every day in your daily life. Now with the help of these like internet and all these social media, you get to meet people from across the world, from New York or, wherever, like South Africa. We meet all kinds of people on TikTok just because we have this social media platform. So I think the technology is help. I mean, it depends on how you see it. I think it does help to kind of further along the human interaction, and also by reaching towards a lot of your tentacle towards the world in which you are previously not aware of. But I think a lot of people are not aware that the amount of time the social media is not a substitute for the amount of time you spend with real people in real life. Because at the end of the day, human beings are social animals and social creatures. We need to interact with real human beings, and physical proximity matters.
Mm-hmm. And here's a piece of bad news, Stephen. We got an AI right now. Just try to imagine when those games have the AI system built in. Then it's gonna be more realistic. Do you just remember the other time when I was streaming, I invited you to try the ChatGPT a little bit, the Dan mode, right? And then you talked to Dan, and then I couldn't say you were blushing, but you definitely kind of enjoyed the conversation for like 15 minutes.
I was charmed because it's something that I haven't done. I mean, but I realize it's very, very much a program because it doesn't really interact with you like a human being. But I think with the sophistication of AI technology, it is entirely possible that in our lifetime that there is a technology that's for us that's completely lifelike, and you can't really tell the other person whether the other person is a computer program or a real person. It's a real possibility.
Oof.
Well, I like questions, right? So the question in future will change from should we interact and spend time with virtual person to who should we interact in this virtual world, right? Because, let's say there's not going to be just one person or one game that going to kind of be a almost real life person, right? There's going to be AI Dan, there's going to be AI Linsey, there's going to be AI Mark, right? So it still comes back to the essential question of who should we interact with, right? So the same way that I'm bringing to this situation for current situation is that, because of social media, because of this convenience of technology, I have met Linsey and Stephen, and I've started having some more time with you guys interacting. But we only, as a person, I only have 24 hours. While I'm having fun spending time with you guys, am I spending too much time with you guys where I'm neglecting my families, my partners, and my kids? So I think that it's the same old question, right? It's going back to say, how do I achieve that balance? It doesn't matter if it's AI world versus the human beings, or it's AI versus another AI. It's who do you decide to spend time with? That's important.
Well, let me turn around and ask you, Mark. Does your partner complain that you are spending too much time on TikTok and not enough time with them?
Absolutely, especially during the pandemic era. Even as much time that I had, even like we are next to each other, right? And we'll be on the phone. So we are not interacting with each other. We're interacting with the virtual world. So he definitely would complain to say, like, wait a second, we're not going out anymore. What happened to our date night? Oh, I'm having this appointment. I'm on this chat room, right? I'm having a good time. So I want to, instead of saying, I'm sorry, I have to go have dinner with my partner, instead I'm saying, no, you go ahead, you have dinner. We'll go next time. We'll go tomorrow, right? We're pushing off this kind of interaction or the needs of our partners, our close families. So that's what I think I worried about, and I recognize it. So I've made some kind of conscious adjustments, right? So I feel like that's why I keep saying this is the time we need to ask that question. How much are we spending with virtual world? How much are we spending with the real life people?
And that's coming from you, a person who's married and have four kids. And think about people who are, single like me and Linsey. Like we have all the free time like at our disposal, and we get to just figure out how we're going to spend those time by ourselves. So it's really hard to, wean your way out of the dependency of technology when all you have is especially when you're by yourself. You have to lean on the technology for you to be making like connection with people on the internet. Otherwise, and then in hopes that in the process of like gaining friends and kind of knowing more people on the internet, it sort of translate to like offline communication and offline interaction and offline kind of quality time.
So the question is, did you? How's the outcome? Like, I know that, we're consciously understanding, okay, let's make, 10 friends through Douyin and through social media, and with the intention of translating it into real life interactions. But have we achieved it? Or how is the probability of really being a successful transition from online friends to offline friends?
I would talk about, I would use me as this example. I found out about the kind of chat room function of TikTok like in 2022. And then I sort of get addicted to it. I was spending a lot of time talking to all kinds of people. And then I realized it's really, I don't really talk to just random strangers on the internet just because they speak English and I kind of have to interact with them. And then I sort of made a conscious decision to spend more time with people that I know and, have chatted before. And, we shared, there's something about this person kind of resonate with me. I decided to spend more time with that person. And then now I'm consciously trying to, especially in terms of dating, I'm trying to talk to people on the internet and also try to move the conversation, from the internet into real life. So, yes, there is a process in terms of like me being increasingly conscious about the amount of time that I spend on the internet and how much of those time is like unnecessarily like spent. And now I'm just slowly kind of trying to control how much I spend time on the internet to kind of make the best out of my time on social media.
I have the opposite choice, Stephen. I always get frustrated when I'm dealing with real people in my real life. Like we don't resonate, you know? And we just talk about the daily issues like have you eaten? What did you eat? Or what would you like to go during the summer vacation and stuff like that. And all of our conversations are just somehow just maintained in this superficial level most of the time. So I chose to talk to people on the internet like you, like Mark, right? And we could have a lot of things to talk about. We share a lot of things that I cannot share in my real life, including those AI programs, including these dating games, right? It's like I'm getting things I don't get.
A light bulb just went off on my head, right? I feel like, I'm here kind of almost on a moral high ground to tell people, oh, you need to move your life offline, or you need to meet real life people. And I just realized, we are different. Like I'm different from Stephen. Stephen's different from Linsey. All our needs are different. So why, offline world is better than virtual? I mean, because my presumption coming into this conversation is that real life is so much better than the virtual world. Yes, for me, yes, but it's not necessary for Linsey. It's not necessarily for somebody else that's out there whose personality is not like mine, who's extra outgoing and draw so much energy from interacting with real life people and just have fun kind of poking somebody at the real life, right? Maybe somebody out there, just like what you say in Japan, like somebody who has not gone out of the house for 3-4 years, that's their need, right?
Right.
So the need for, who am I to say that Linsey's not living a great life, just not interacting with most people because they're boring. Right.
Well, I guess we are not saying that, we're not condemning people who are spending too much time on the internet or just getting too invested on the online world, but I think it helps for everybody who are in this day of age with our dependency on technology to examine our where our dependency on the technology is helpful to our existence or is actually detrimental to our existence, or whether there's some way for us to adjust how we interact with technology so that it helps to better fulfill my life or make my life better. So I think it does help to examine our relationship with technology and how that, helps with our place in the world.
Well, my previous comment is really a criticism of myself, right? I claim myself to be open-minded, yet I think I coming into this conversation with certain kind of preconceived notion of what's better or judgment, what's better or what's worse. And I just realized, wait, I have to make adjustments of that attitude. It's more about, this conversation is more about asking questions rather than me trying to convince anybody of anything.
Well, each of us is different. Linsey spent a lot of time, she talks about different things with the people that she meets in real life and people she meets on the internet, and sort of satiate her different needs in different spaces. And you kind of you sort of meet your social needs on the internet, talk to people from all over the world, and then you have your family to lean back on for quality time, for bond building. And I, as a kind of single man, I kind of do it both ways. Like on the internet, yes, you are my friends, I talk to you about different things, and like on dating apps, I talk to different people and sort of try in the hopes that I would actually get some of them to meet me in real life. We just sort of get what we need from each spaces. But I think it also helps for us to examine whether our way of dealing with technology is really beneficial to us, or whether it's like there's some sort of fine adjustment to our way of interacting with technology and how that should affect our interaction with people in daily life. But I want to get back to Linsey. I want to ask you a question. What's the difference between interacting with people on the internet and interacting with the people you meet in real life that kind of interact with them differently?
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, most of my friends in my real life are the ones that I knew a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Some of them would be like over 20 years ago or something. So we have known each other for 20 years. But the thing is, even if we have known each other for 20 years, we don't actually grow in a similar kind of pace. So we don't have the similar topics at all right now. Like some of them, they have kids, they have families, right? Some of them, they're choosing a very different path. And then it seems like I just don't have anything in common with my friends in my real life. I mean, I still care about my friends. My friends still care about me, right? But the thing is, when it comes to the conversational level or, some spiritual level, I just cannot resonate to whatever they said, and they cannot either.
Would it be fair to say because you are kind of in your late 30s as a single woman, a lot of your friends are married, and the trajectory of your friends in real life doesn't intersect much with like your way of life, so that you are finding more in common with the people you meet on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely yes. You definitely wanna be in an environment that you feel comfortable, right? And I think that's the reason I choose to play one of those dating games, and also I choose to interact with AI as well, because I could have conversations with AI or those those dating games, right? Yeah.
I think this is an example where technology is helpful in terms of we try out different kind of interaction and kind of our persona and personality on the internet and like with the dating games, so that there's a lot of things, because in real life we're weighed down by our existence and who we are in real life, and there's a lot of things you cannot do because you are a physical person and you have these kind of pre-existing relationship with your friends in real life. But on the internet, like each day you get to be a little bit different, and you get to play out your fantasy, you get to play out your imagination, all kinds of ways. I think this is where technology is helpful for us to achieve a lot of things that can be achieved in real life.
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't know about Mark, because Mark hasn't played any of those dating games yet. But I think eventually Mark may want to try maybe one or two of them, right, Mark?
I will tell you something that I probably I have told people, but I think that's something that it's not. I don't feel like it's a very positive thing for myself. I have a very addictive personality. What I mean by addictive personality is, obviously you guys play games. I had played games in my younger ages, right? But I realized when I do, I forget about time. I basically will be on the computer playing those games 24/7, right? And then that's one thing. And I realized I wasn't myself. You know how sometimes people are drunk and they are not themselves. They have a different personality. I was a different person when I'm playing, let's say, computer games. And that's number one. Also, I realized we sometimes gamble, right? You go to casinos, and in US, casinos are legal. So we go to casinos, and I realize that when I get onto one of those games, even just as simple as a slot machine, right? I typically don't play the table games, but a slot machine, I realize it creates that kind of very instantaneous dopamine high, right? And I really will be in it. I would try to figure out that how this mechanism work. How can I get out of this trap of luck, right? So I really kind of immerse myself in it. I mean, using a better word, but in a real word, it will be addicted. So from those two things, I realized I have a very addictive personality. So to counter that, because it's taking too much of my time. I'm not myself, right? It's somebody that I don't like, somebody that my family doesn't like. So when I realized that when I was in my early 20s, I've decided to just cut it cold turkey, right? So I basically torched my video games, right? At that time, they have physical games, right? Physical discs. So I basically torched them. And I promised myself that I wouldn't go to those casinos. And that really helped. I mean, it helped for me, right? So I kind of eventually got back to this whole, real life thing. So I feel like even for those games that you are saying, try it, right? I'm hesitating, not because I'm not open to it, but I'm hesitating. I would like it too much. Because from the video that you sent me, I can see why anybody would like it, why there is such a good big market. So I'm afraid that I will be addicted to it. And then I would get into that rut of, let's say you guys are single, you guys are available, have a lot more time, but I don't. I have a real life family that I have to kind of take care of. And time is the best judgment of how you cared about them, really. How much time you spend with them. Forget about the quality of time, right? Just the quantity of time that you've got to guarantee. So I feel like I probably would open to try, but with a lot of hesitation, with a lot of consciousness to say, okay, I've got to control the pace and the time that I spend on those things.
Except for time, there's money. And can you imagine how much money I invested into different kinds of games? I spent a few thousands in games.
A few thousand. Let me tell you, someone that I know from internet, right? From during the Douyin era, right? During the pandemic era. I interact with him, and he is someone who works retail in Shanghai. Typical kind of commission plus salary will be about 12,000. So it's okay. It's a decent 12,000 a month, right? Do you know in less than 5 years, do you know how much he spent just on games, which I don't know what games he plays? He spent $300,000, over $300,000 on games.
Wow.
Are we talking
And
about,
that's for somebody. That's for somebody who doesn't make that much. $12,000 is decent, but it's not that much.
are we talking about US dollar, or are we talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry, renminbi.
Right.
Renminbi.
Okay.
I apologize. It's a 12,000 per month renminbi, and over $300,000 spent in games during in the time span of 5 years renminbi. Yeah.
But my question for you, Mark, is that would your partner be jealous if you are meeting your romantic needs with this dating game and instead of like with him?
Well, first of all, I never even, that didn't even come across my mind. First of all, my concentration was it's a game. You brought up this, definitely will. Forget about even this is a dating game. Just think about that I'm spending time with you guys, let's say. If it's not allotted time, right, of 2 hours, let's say, then he'll get jealous. He says, wait, what are you doing? Like, I'm here. Why are you not with me, right? I think, a lot of those conflicts between a Chinese couple nowadays, it's typically, right? A boy spends a lot of time on the game, just forget about dating game, just the game. And the girl goes out and do her thing. And then when she comes back, she's like, why are you still on the computer, right? I'm here. Why are you not interacting with me? So I think when you get into any relationships or marriage, then, as I said, time is the best measurement of how much you cared about the other person. If you're not even spending the time, forget about the quality of time, right?
But I guess that's the sort of thing you have to be mindful of. If you get into a relationship with someone, you have to be conscious about the amount of time you spend on the internet versus the amount of time you spend with this person that you decided to make a relationship of. So I guess it's kind of the preponderance falls on that person to think about how that person should allot their time.
And I do think money should be valued as well. Not that important. If I have to rank, like time is the first for us to evaluate a relationship, like how much time you invested in this relationship. And the second thing, I think money is also very important.
But I think you can always make more money, but you can't really buy back time.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, think about the amount of time you kind of regret about the decision you make in the past and sort of the thing you haven't done to, as obligation or responsibility versus the amount of money you spend wrongfully in the past. Because you can always make more money. Money, it may not be much more, but you can always make more money. But time, you really can buy back all the amount of times that you have done something wrong in the past.
Now I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I seriously have to revalue how I see relationships right now.
Or how we spend. We always need to think about how we spend our time as a human being on this earth, because our time is timed. We all are gonna expire at some point. So our time is limited. We have to allot our time very consciously and wisely. But I see a lot of the times, especially for the average person, they think about time as limitless, because they don't think about that they're gonna die, or they gotta expire eventually. So they just squander their time, like, I don't know, like Lindsay Lohan squander her acting talent. So yeah.
Well, Lindsay had mentioned about money. I want to make a comment on that. Money is a tool. Money is never the end goal, where time is the real wealth for anybody. So you can use that tool to buy the wealth, but you will never be able to use the wealth to gain back that tool. So I would say that we want to make that concept very clear and distinguishable. Is that what's a true wealth? True wealth is time. And when you are giving, let's say you are involved in a relationship, if you are just giving a tool to somebody, to your partner, then you're basically telling them, I don't care about you. You go ahead and do things, take care of yourself, right? I'm giving you the tool. Where if you are giving your time to your partner, then you are giving the real true wealth to your partner. So that's what I think it's more important. I think it helps a relationship on that end. Spend more time, not to give money.
But it's a question for the audience, for the listener, and also for you guys. Like, what's the proportion of people you meet in real life that are really focused on, building their wealth and building their portfolio, that kind of person, and then versus the people who are really mindful of how they should invest their time as a human being on the internet towards a cause that's really worth spending your time on, like worthy cause. Like, what would you say? Yeah.
I do think people are using the tool for the most of the time. Even the games, even those dating games, are basically just telling us when you have money, you have the magic power in a relationship.
But I think, but I think that's a question that you sort of grow increasingly more aware of and increasingly pressing for you as you grow older, and more clear for you. Because when you're younger, you're concerned about how you make more money, how you're able to support family. And as you grow older, like, we are all towards 30s and 40s, and now we're at a stage in life where we're thinking about how we should allot our time towards things that are really worth our time. So it's different. But when you're younger, you don't think about things. You don't think about spending time on things that are worthwhile. You just think about how you build your portfolio, how you build your wealth, how you build your net worth, that kind of thing.
Right, because when we are in our 20s or teens, right, we live like we never die.
Well, yeah, that's one thing precious about youth.
Yeah.
See, this is the one of those. Can I say it's both advantages and disadvantages of those dating games, right? You pay your money and you buy yourself a very quality time. You don't have to waste a lot of time to deal with this person. I mean, if you seriously want to reach an intimate kind of level with the other human being, you have to invest like huge amount of time and probably huge amount of money to get this person like you, or to get this person like get attracted to you. Probably, right? But the thing is, in these dating games, you don't have to do that. You just spend a little bit of money and a little bit of your time, and you have the quality time. So it's easier for people to get this,
Wait a second. Is it really quality time?
Well, let me just say to you, as your portfolio kind of grows and as sort of your wealth grows, your perception of what's worthwhile spending your money on and time on is different than when I'd say your net worth is a lot smaller. So I know some people that would pay, actually, they contract professional service just so they can have some interaction that's not inside the marriage. So I think as your wealth kind of grows, your perception of what's rightful to spend your time and energy and resources to kind of changes.
I still want to go back to that keyword, quality. I think that's the right question to ask, right? I'm not going to make a judgment of is it a quality time, because to each individual it would be different. But I would like audience or listeners to ponder on that question. The money that you spend on to have that quality time with someone, is it really quality? The reason I'm asking that question is, think about it, right? Regardless if you are spending money to have contracted service outside of marriage, or you are just going out and having that for one night, right? I've had that before, right? Not contracting service, but I've had for one night. But I realized afterwards, to me, it was not a quality time or quality interaction. So I have to go through that to understand what to me is a quality time, a quality interaction. So that's why I wanted to ask, really emphasize the question. When you spend money, or when you spend time, is that quality time? When you spend the time, is it quality interaction? So, quality.
I would use myself as an example, because I dread to look at how much money I spend each month on OnlyFans subscription. I know I'm a lonely gay man. This is sort of my way of saying I don't have a boyfriend in real life. This is how I kind of meet my needs as a human being, as to meet my libido, kind of way. But if I really have someone that I think is worthwhile spending my time with and spending my money with, I mean, I would just, I would unsubscribe from all those OnlyFans creators in a heartbeat.
But Mark, your question kind of scared me for sure.
Well, I think a lot of times
the quality time that you're talking about, right? And I was like, okay, when I want to take the vitamin pills, I take the vitamin pills. It's like, okay, when I want a flirtatious kind of partner for 5 minutes, then I just get that partner for 5 minutes. And that's what I want at that moment, and then get it. And I don't really think it's a very natural way for us to get that quality time I was talking about. So this part just scared me a little bit, Mark.
But
because I always, this is why I asked the question, right? Because when we have some instantaneous satisfaction, the challenge is that we don't feel great. We don't feel fulfilled at the end. Well, at least I don't. I shouldn't say we, right? I don't represent everyone. But I should say I didn't feel fulfilled after this so-called what I wanted, right? That 5 minutes of fun time. And I ended up wanting more, but I didn't know what more would I want. I got what I wanted in that last 5 minutes, but then I came out empty, right? So again, it's not meant for you to answer, for anyone to answer at the moment. It's just a question to ponder, to think, to say, okay, next time when I'm spending that 5 minutes, I'm going to consciously think about that and reflect on it and see if that's quality, and is there any more that I want? Is there any adjustments I should make? So it's more of questions to ponder. Yeah, it's really not. I think answer is so individual. You know?
Yeah, but I'll also use myself as an example. When I spend money on OnlyFans subscriptions or all those creators, I know what I'm getting out of it. It's just instant gratification and sexual release from them, from digital realm. But I wouldn't delude myself into thinking what I do on the internet that's to replace what I really get to spend when I do go out with my friends, or actually go on dates and go on spend a time with real people. I sort of compartmentalize those two worlds very, very reasonably, or I guess really rationally in my mind, that I know what I want to get out of it, and this is what I want getting out of it. That's why I spend money on this kind of this way, and then I spend money on food and going out, dining out with my friends to meet a different kind of needs.
Right, but let me be very, very blunt, right? So let's compare apple to apples. Forget about your friends going out to have dinner, right? Let's concentrate on this sexual release thing, right? So your OnlyFans subscription, right? So you know what you get out of this subscription, right? And then you are saying that you have gone out and then interact with real life person for the same, that's a kind of similar realm of sexual release, right? So my question is, what's the time? How much time you're spending on OnlyFans and how much time you're spending on the real people? That's a question I want to ask, or at least you should think about. And then the second question is, how are they different, and which one do you think you like better?
Here's the thing. When I do spend time, like when I spend money on OnlyFans subscription, I know that this is only for one thing, is for sexual gratification, and this is all I'm getting out of it. But when I do meet people, to dine out or in restaurants and go on dates, I know sometimes things don't go well, sometimes for short of expectation, and sometimes you sort of become friends, or sort of sometimes something go further out of it, or you become something more than friends or less than a, say, lover, for example. So human interaction is much more genuine and much more different and much more realistic than you sort of the fantastical fantasy world that you have with this kind of online creators you spend on OnlyFans and all these, pornographic creators, because they are selling a fantasy. And as long as you know there's a fantasy, and the people that you meet in real life is different, and they're flawed, they're imperfect, but that's why it's they're precious and special, as long as you're aware of that.
So what I'm hearing is that on OnlyFans or this kind of sexual gratification is predictable. The outcome is predictable. Where in the real life interaction, regardless how you started, the outcome is very unpredictable. It could go many different ways, which I want to bring back to what we started with in terms of this, the dating games, right? That's why I asked the question, is it the same storyline? Is it going to be the same ending? How is it that attracts people? Because I think ultimately, to me, my imagination, because I haven't played the game, my imagination, what will draw me more would be a story that will have multiple different kind of endings, with multiple different possibilities. Depends on how I interact with the person, right? Real life world, it's so unpredictable. You could be falling in love with someone and it goes so well, and boom, that person had an accident, right? It's like that emotion, I think in a way, all those games, or it's pulling on our emotions, and we need to realize our emotion is not one dimensional, right? It's just this complex thing that we're trying to kind of tangle with. And I think that's a fun part of it. And I don't know about current games, right? But I would say that what will draw me will be something in those games that will be unpredictable. Then I don't know what I'm getting.
Exactly.
There's a lot of those games that are open-ended. Like they have an open ending or multiple endings depending on your interaction with each character. It sort of determine the outcome of that what your ending will be. That's sort of how a lot of those games are designed. But even if, let's say, that it has an open ending, it doesn't really have just one plot line. But even if that's, the game that you sort of want to play, but it sort of doesn't replace your interaction with real human being, because I don't know, I don't know, there's something really special about interaction with human beings, even if, you interacted with them the same way that you interacted with your online characters. The outcome is different, and the interaction is slightly more fulfilling than you have with just a online persona avatar.
So yeah, can I wrap up with
Yes,
this
please.
kind of conclusion? It's like a type of fast food, right? When you're hungry, you get the fast food, but it's not the best quality kind of food. Anyway, you just stop getting hungry. That's all, right? And it could be nutritious, and it could be not, right? So, like, now the time is still changing. We don't know yet. Like, the AI is definitely, I have to say, the AI has already been built in some of those games, but you have to pay for having the interactions in this AI mode. Like, you just tell this person how you feel today, and this person will react. This character will react, right? So let's see what's going to happen in the future about those games. And thank you very much, Stephen, for joining us today. And I think we will see each other again later.
Okay.
So
Yes, very soon.
Yeah, thank
Stay tuned
you.
for a personal interview of Stephen.
Okay.